What up, what up, what up? Fula with another video, coming with another live stream. Shout outs to the whole LDBC. Now, of course, as I said before, I'm not going to let up on Nature Nut until he's gone, until he's vanished, until he's no more, until he's irrelevant, until his story is basically the thing that someone will make a Hollywood movie of, basically. Now, one thing that Nature Boy likes to do so much is talk about, and people in his camp, this is another thing that they talk about. Oh, you're not on the right frequency. Oh, you guys can't handle my vibrations. We have higher vibrations. When in reality, their vibrations are basically low as the fire of hell. In fact, I would dare to even say that his vibrations and their vibrations are in hell. That's why their faces are getting burnt. That's why Nature Boy's skin is drying. That's why these things are happening. Because they aren't vibrating as they think they're vibrating, you know. In fact, they're vibrating in such a way that is going to make the outcome pretty bad as of right now. So, in this live stream, my intention was to basically, again, take from the manuscripts that have been digitalized, which I have been fortunate enough to have, and show the difference between people who actually vibrated on a high frequency, people who actually were on such a level where, as they say, cloud nine. Yes, they were on cloud nine. That's the best way to describe it. So there's a couple of these figures, and I'm just going to go ahead and talk about them. And what I'm going to do too is compare them to Nature Boy, and you can see the difference. I'm going to read the traits of them, and then we're going to compare it to Nature Boy, and then you can be the judge and see if they vibrate on that high frequency in which they claim to vibrate on. Let's get started, shall we? So this text, very old text, pre-colonial text. So this text basically is a poem / autobiography. So what the author does is he talks about his teachers and their merits because he decided to pay homage to them in poem form. So that's what he did. So let's go ahead and read about it, shall we? Man, I hope one of these Carbon Nation people see this live stream, or all of them see this live stream, and they'll learn something because Nature Boy is not teaching any knowledge at all. You know. Not at all. Okay, let's go ahead and read. Okay. So the poet writes about one of his teachers, and he says that the teacher had spiritual bounties and vastness of spiritual states, and the and had very great successes in his social affairs. We can stop right there and do a whole live on how Nature Boy has really no success in his social affairs. We see that through his constant blocking of people on his channel. We see that of his constant hanging up on people on his channel. We see that through the interactions in which he has with his members' family on the channel. So we can just discount him from that equation right away. That's like strike one, as they say. Or if you want to say something else, it's a swing and a miss. That's what it comes down to. Now, um, let's get into the deeper one. Now, this guy was deep. The next poet's teacher. He basically said about him that he was a righteous ascetic, right? He was scrupulously pious, saint, and Gnostic, the possessor of pure, sanctified breaths, and manifest, majestic, and perfected spiritual illumination. That just discounts that's like a strike two and a strike three and a strike four and a strike up to strike 10 for Nature Boy, because he has nothing like this. Okay, for one, he's not aesthetic. Okay, we see that through his lives. I mean, you see the dirt bikes, you see the tents with flat screen TVs inside. You see the what else? The he has a drone. You see the solar panels. So we can discount him from that. He's far from an aesthetic. So definitely he's not vibrating on a high frequency, you know, because usually if you're on a high frequency, you really don't have the need for a lot of material items. But we know Nature Boy does, right? Okay. Another thing is this guy was a saint, okay, and a Gnostic. And I mean, you can call Nature Boys the devil saint. I mean, that's pretty much it, you know. That's where he falls into. And usually, if you're a Gnostic, you recognize a God presence, and Nature Boy calls himself God. But again, let's be honest, it's not really there with that guy. Now, another thing too is the teacher, or I mean, the poet's teacher was the possessor of pure, sanctified breaths, right? Manifested, majestic, and perfected spiritual illumination. He was the master of genuine, subtle spiritual indications, elevated and stunning spiritual expressions, and an uninterrupted outpouring, outflow of divine realities. Again, you see how many times the author used the word spirit in this thing. The only thing that Nature Boy has spirited going on is when he guzzled his wines and spirits. That's it. Other than that, he's not he's so far away from this, you know. He's very, very far away from this. And because he's living in La La Land, he's not able to realize the divine realities that the poet's teacher realizes, basically. Okay, now he now the author says about his teacher, he was the master of extremely rare and ingenious spiritual courtesies and radiantly illuminating means of spiritual ascension. He possessed a sanctified, encompassing spiritual ideas and intuitive expressions, which were brilliant, luminous, elucidating, searing, and diffusing. Oh man, that is a mouthful because of the simple fact that Nature Boy does not diffuse anything that is uplifting, anything that is elucidating, anything that is searing, anything that is brilliant. He really doesn't at all. It's like comparing, like, it's like with him, with the teachers, with the poet's teacher, it's like he's a diamond, he's a big diamond that you find, in the diamond mine. Very, very big diamond. But with Nature Boy, it's like copper, or even worse than copper. It's like I don't know how to describe it. Copper is giving him too much respect. I guess you can say aluminum, because aluminum is like fake, basically. Aluminum is shiny, but the reality is it's not solid. You know what I mean? So that's what we can compare Nature Boy to. Now let's go. Let's see what else the poet says about his teacher. He was the master of his age in verifying the pillars of the spiritual path, and he was the acknowledged leader of his age in the enhancements of the engineers of the divine realities. He was the chief of the people of his times in this affair in knowledge, actions, spiritual state, spiritual stations, and implementation. That's like strike number 20 with Nature Boy, because at the end of the day, I mean, let's be honest, like, he's not a chief. He's definitely not a chief. He's definitely not knowledgeable. Unless you consider Professor Google knowledgeable, then okay, you have bigger issues to worry about. So there we have it again, you know. And the thing is about the poet's teacher is once he had knowledge, he acted upon it. Nature Boy doesn't act upon anything because he doesn't have any knowledge of anything. He says he teaches that he says that, I'm trying to get out a message and get out a word. But the reality is it's basically baseless. So that disqualifies him, and he has low frequencies. But the poet's teacher has very high frequencies, as you see from what I'm describing, basically. Now, let's go further, okay? They said the poet wrote about his teacher. He said he became the access of the circle of sainthood and the most immense gate open to the masters of divine assistance. He came to possess an extensive hand in penetrating and in penetrating expenditure in the secrets of God, and a far reaching capacity for perfect comprehension. Um, so again, this guy was a master. This guy was a guru. This guy was African Yoda, basically. You know, this guy knew what was going on. So when you compare him to Nature Guy or Nature Nut, it's almost the complete opposite. You know, it's like comparing night to day, and it's not even close. Let's see what else we can find. Okay, this is key too. You know, with all of this, right? With all of these merits that the poet's teacher had, right? His spiritual state was hidden and concealment and lacked outward social prominence due to the powerful influences that divine realities had upon him. So, in essence, what happened is this guy would be walking around in obscurity. You wouldn't even know that he possessed these things, you know, these high stations, you know. And with Nature Boy, he no obscurity there. I'm the Christ. I'm Elohim. I'm this, that, and the other. No obscurity. I'm humble. I'm the nicest person you ever meet. These are the words of your chief of the earth plane. Complete opposite from this individual who didn't really have any words, you know. Um, oh, and this is the most important thing. This is probably the most important point. This is probably the most important point of it all. Okay. Now, the poet says about his teacher, some of what happened with me in particular is that I never encountered him except that he increased my spiritual enthusiasm in any affair, be it of the hereafter or worldly. Now, when you look at carbonation and things like that, and when you watch them on YouTube, when you watch them on Instagram, really ask yourself, do they increase your spiritual enthusiasm? Do they like get something inside of you that makes you want to, you know, search and seek the the real, meaning the divine presence? Or do they make you, do you look at them in contempt? Do you look at them and get grossed out? Do you look at them and say, I don't want to be like these people, or I'm glad I'm not like these people, or I'm thankful that, you know, I was not dumb enough to go down this route? I know for me, when I see them on their little social media and when I see them on whatever platform, I say to myself, thank God that's not me, you know. And I also ask the Most High, please don't let me end up like them, you know. Please keep me far, far, far away from their fate because you're putting them through a lot. Yeah, I wouldn't want to go through any of that. And so it goes back to the point that Nature Boy doesn't basically, Nature Boy does not increase your spiritual enthusiasm at all. He lowers your spiritual enthusiasm to like negative a million. So that just basically shows that his vibrations are low and he's a fraud, of course. Okay. Now another thing too. This guy wasn't just sitting around. Um, the poet wrote about his teacher that he would produce handcraft goods, right, and commodities, and then sell them to the markets in the marketplace. Have we seen Nature Boy do any kind of commodities, any kind of labor, anything like that? No, we haven't. We have not. Okay, let's go into let's look at another guy. Okay, let's look at one more guy, right? Hold on just a minute. A lot of this I can't really read, because it's so heavy. Very heavy. Very, very heavy. Okay. So here's some other masters. Um, one of the masters, what happened is, you know, he has such a spiritual state that it will overwhelm him and completely take control of him, until he got to the point of being unconscious. And I mean, I can believe that, you know, if you're really in tune, if you're really writing the high vibrations that some of these carbon nut jobs speak of. So again, it just goes to show that nature not rides low vibrations. Okay, let's see. One of the guys, what happened with him is that he used to be in like matters of the unseen, and because he was so in tune, because he was writing on a high vibration, I guess you can say, um, that he used to encounter an ancestor that passed before, and then he used to eat with him. The only thing that they're encountering over at that camp is demons and devils of all different shapes and sizes, you know. So, again, disqualified from this equation. Okay, let's see. Okay, so another guy, another one of the teachers, people, the spiritual state got him so much, right? That he would actually shout and scream, you know, because he was completely enveloped in the spiritual state, you know. Um, and basically, he would come back to be once he was out of that spiritual state. Now, another thing too is that this guy possessed miracles which broke normative creational laws. Nature Boy, the only miracle that Nature Boy has succeeded at doing is still having people follow him and still having people donate to him. That's the only miracle he's capable of, at this time. But we're going to put an end to that soon. Okay. Even a woman had a high spiritual state in here, and she was one of the teachers of the author. So what that tells me is that, you know, a woman did not mind leading the charge to teach. And, you know, if Nature Boy was violent, if Nature Boy was on such a high vibration, high frequency, he wouldn't be the only one talking most of the time. He would let other people speak. But, I just want to do a live video about that stuff, man. You know, and that's pretty much all I got. Leave your comments, leave your thoughts, share this video. If you like the channel, feel free to subscribe. If not, no love lost. And I'm out until the next live. Ciao.